Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in and welcome to part one of the 80 Days to Your Dream Body Carnivore Challenge. The rules: every single day I'm going to be giving you one food item to consume, and you are allowed to eat as much of that food item as you like. However, there are no substitutions allowed. If you either do not like a food or if you are unable to find it, congratulations, it is going to be a fasting day for you. Also, with regard to the preparatory method, everything is either going to be grilled or you are going to bake it in the oven on parchment paper. No salt and no butter is going to be allowed throughout these 80 days. The reason: salt and butter makes food taste better, and the more yummy the food, the more likely you are to overeat it. So no salt, no butter. With regard to the foods, day one is going to be chicken thighs, day two is going to be sockeye salmon, day three is ribeye steak, day four is bison burgers, and day five is going to be pork spare ribs. With regard to each meal, 1 to 2 hours after you finish completing it, you are going to download and complete this fine-tuning your diet worksheet. This is the same worksheet that I give to my coaching clients, and it's going to allow you to get a better idea of what exactly how your body responds to certain types of foods. So by the end of these 80 days, you should have a good idea of which foods your body responds well to. And the final thing is, every single 5-day block, I'm going to be giving you one habit to follow. And today, we are going to be discussing water consumption. A lot of people say you should drink when you're thirsty, but that's complete bullshit because thirst is the first sign of mild dehydration. So you should be drinking before you even get thirsty. And today, I'm going to be explaining the importance of water consumption, and I'm going to be telling you how much water you should be drinking. Now, let's get started. Before I get into the first habit, I first want to explain why it is important to develop healthy habits. I started coaching back in August of 2004, and between 2004 and 2010, I had a pretty terrible success rate. The reason is, I used to take a look at somebody's life and I used to jot down all of their bad habits and I used to try to get them to change everything all at once, and it was a recipe for failure. Then, in March of 2010, I discovered Precision Nutrition, which is a course that was developed by a PhD professor, John Berardi. And one of the things that I took away from that course is he mentioned the importance of cultivating healthy habits and focusing all of your time, effort, and energy on one habit at a time. One of the stats that he ended up listing was, if you focus all of your time, effort, and energy on developing one habit at a time, your success rate is going to be 80%. If you try to tackle two habits, it is going to plummet to 30%. And if you try to focus on three or more habits, your likelihood of success drops to below 5%. So that's when I started incorporating focusing on one strategic habit with my coaching clients. And ever since, my success rate has been over 99%. Then I kept taking note of all the different habits that people weren't following. And in 2015, I decided to leave the commercial gyms and start my own coaching practice. And back in 2015, that is when I compiled a list of the 48 most important habits that most people were not doing when they weren't achieving their results. I compiled a list of 12 nutrition optimization habits, 12 movement optimization habits, 12 sleep optimization habits, and 12 stress management habits. Over the next 80 days, I am going to be sharing 16 of those 48 habits. I'm going to be sharing 4 from each category, starting with today. The habit number one that you should be doing is drinking half your body weight in ounces of clean drinking water every single day, and that is your body weight in pounds. So if you are a 200-pound individual, you should be consuming 100 ounces of clean drinking water every single day. And that is just a general recommendation. One of the reasons is because the myth: a lot of people will say you should only drink when you are thirsty, but that's complete bullshit. The thirst signals that your body get is the first sign of mild dehydration. And when you are moderately dehydrated, what's going to happen is your body is going to begin rationing its water supply, and it's going to send it from non-critical functions, so things like your muscles and joints, to body areas that are critical for human survival, such as your organs. Now, let's take a look at what exactly is going to happen if you are mildly dehydrated. The muscles and joints. Your muscles are approximately 70% water. So that should tell you how important water is going to be and how important properly hydrated it's going to be properly hydrated in order for your muscles to function optimally. You can get a lot of muscle cramps, you could get a lot of spasms, so you want to make sure that you are adequately hydrated. And if you are somebody that suffers from a lot of muscle cramps, the first thing you should try doing is increasing your water intake if you're not drinking enough. Next, we're going to take a look at the joints. The joints are surrounded by synovial fluid. The synovial fluid is the liquid that lubricates the joints. So if you are mildly dehydrated, it's going to ration its water supplies from your muscle and joints and send it to your internal organs. And that is why a lot of people who are dehydrated will develop muscle pain and cramps and also joint pain. So let's take a look at what happens to the organs when you are even more severely dehydrated. At the brain, it's going to impact your brain function quite a bit. A lot of people, they will have cognitive impairment. So if you find that you are very low on energy or if you're very mentally confused all the time, first thing you should try is increasing your water intake. Next, With regard to the heart, you could develop things like an irregular heartbeat. So, again, if you do have issues with regard to your heart, or if you have anything like hypertension, anything related to improper blood flow, or anything with regard to the water hydration mechanics, definitely increase your water intake. And same thing with the lungs. All of your organs will be affected if you are dehydrated. So, if you're not drinking enough water, definitely prioritize your hydration status. That should be the first thing that you to look at. How much water should we be drinking? Well, I already told you the general recommendation. That is going to be drink half of your body weight in ounces of clean drinking water every day, and that's your body weight in pounds. So, again, for a 200-pound individual, you're drinking 100 ounces of clean drinking water every single day. What can affect that? Well, the first thing is going to be geography. If you are living somewhere where the area is very, very dry, let's say even you are closer to the poles versus somebody to the equator, when you are closer to the poles, it's going to be a lot cooler over there. And if you are inside a lot, you're not going to be perspiring as much, so you're not going to need as much water. If you live closer to the equator and you are outdoors a lot, it's going to be a lot hotter and you are going to be sweating a lot more, so you're going to need a lot more water. Next, we're going to take a look at the climate. The climate, even in your geography, the climate is going to change depending on the season. So in the summertime, it's a lot hotter. You're going to be sweating a lot more if you're more active and outdoors. So you're going to need more water in the summer as opposed to the winter. In the wintertime, if you're indoors because it's very, very cold and you're not sweating a lot, you're not going to need as much. Next, we are going to take a look at activity levels. If you are an extreme endurance athlete or just an athlete in general, or even if you sweat a lot while you are working out, you are going to want to drink a little bit more water than the general recommended amount that I just gave you. However, if you are a very sedentary person and you don't really perspire that much, then you aren't going to require quite as much water. The next thing we want to take a look at is diet. With regard to diet, the more salt in your diet and the more meat you are consuming, the greater the demands for water. So, for people that are on a carnivore diet or a keto diet, you are going to be consuming a lot more meat and salt. And because you're consuming a lot more meat and salt, you should be drinking a lot more water than somebody who is on, say, a vegetarian or a vegan diet. Vegetarian or vegan diet, they're obviously not eating meat. So, because the meat demands are lower, they're going to have less sodium in their diet and they're going to need less water because they're not going to have to compensate for the amount of sodium and meat that they are ingesting. The next thing that we are going to take a look at is stress levels. When you are very, very stressed, your body is going to start rationing its water supply. So, if you are under a chronic amount of stress, what you would want to do is drink more water and you would want to incorporate some stress management techniques to help allow your body to minimize its stress levels. That way, it doesn't ration its water supply. And then the last things are going to be age and sex. With regard to age, generally, the older that you get, you are going to require a little bit more water. And with regard to sex, males are generally going to require more water than females because males, they tend to have more lean muscle mass. So the more lean muscle mass you have, the more water you're going to need to be able to keep that muscle nice and hydrated. Next thing, we want to take a look at hydration and electrolyte balance. First thing we want to do is take a look at the source of the water that you are drinking. We have distilled water, reverse osmosis, and then spring water. With regard to distilled water and reverse osmosis, those waters have been completely stripped of all their minerals. It's naked water. There's nothing in it whatsoever. And with regard to spring water, you want to take a look at the mineral content. If you are drinking reverse osmosis distilled or spring water that contains less than 300 parts per million mineral count, then you would want to add a little bit of salt to your water. What I like to do is Himalayan salt and sodium free potassium salt. I'll add that to my drinking water every single day. And with regard to my water recipe, what I'll do is for every 1 gallon of water, I will put 12 grams of Himalayan salt and 5 grams of sodium free potassium salt. Then, with regard to the spring water, you also want to take a look at the high mineral count waters. If your spring water contains more than 300 parts per million mineral count, you don't need to add any salt to the water because the minerals are already in there. With regard to the salt, how much should you be adding? Well, it's going to depend on each individual's preference. What you would want to do is add enough salt that you cannot taste it in the drinking water. If you can taste the salt in the drinking water, then you've added too much. So what you would do is just back it down from there. So you could start small and then gradually build from there because if you start small, you can always add more. But if you put too much, you can't take the salt out of the water. Next thing that we want to do is take a look at signs of proper hydration. First, we're going to look at the urine color. Urine, it should be a pale yellow color. It shouldn't be completely clear. If it's completely clear, then you're drinking too much. And it also should not be a dark yellow. If it's dark yellow, you are dehydrated. You definitely need to be drinking more water. Next thing, we want to take a look at skin elasticity. One simple test that you could do to see if you're properly hydrated is grab a hold of your skin, pinch the area right over your palm, and let it go. It should be very elastic and bounce back immediately. What you'll find is if you are very dehydrated, when you let go, it's going to just stay there and it's going to slowly come back into its normal position. But If you are properly hydrated, it should be able to just spring right back into its normal spot. Next thing is going to be your energy levels. If you are properly hydrated, you should have great energy levels. If you find that you're very, very sluggish and you have no energy whatsoever, consider drinking more water and really take a look at how much water you are drinking in general. Same thing with cognitive function. If you find that you are very lazy, you find that you are not being able to focus, you're very sluggish, that could be a sign of dehydration as well. So you would want to make sure that you're drinking enough water to enhance your cognitive performance. And then the last thing is muscle function. Again, because muscles are approximately 70% water, if you are consuming an adequate amount of water, your muscles and joints should be feeling fantastic. They should be nice and lubricated. You should be able to have greater range of motion. However, if you're dehydrated, your muscles are going to get very, very sore. You're going to find that you're going to cramp a lot, spasm a lot. Your joints aren't going to feel that great. But if you are properly hydrated, you should have great muscle function, great joint function, increased range of motion as well. So, what is the conclusion? Well, we've got the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good news is that all of these things can be corrected now that you know that the importance of proper hydration. And all you need to do is drink half your body weight in ounces of clean drinking water every single day. And again, that's your body weight in pounds. So, if you're a 200-pound individual, drink 100 ounces of clean drinking water every single day. The bad is that if your water is naked, if you're drinking distilled water, reverse osmosis, or a spring water with less than 300 parts per million, then you're not going to be able to get a good electrolyte balance. But you can add more minerals into the water to manage that deficit that you created if you are drinking something like reverse osmosis or distilled water. And then the ugly is all of these people who keep saying only drink when you are thirsty. That is complete bullshit. Do not listen to those people because thirst is the first sign of mild dehydration. And when you are mildly dehydrated, your body begins rationing its water supply from the extremities to areas that are critical for human survival, such as your organs. So make sure that you are properly hydrated. But that's it for today's video. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for sticking around until the end of the video. Be sure to like, share, and leave a comment as it'll help the algorithm. And if you enjoyed the content, show your support by subscribing to the channel by clicking on the icon in the bottom right corner. And if you really want to show your support, then consider becoming a member by clicking on the icon in the bottom left corner. These new high quality videos aren't cheap to edit, and the $5 membership will really help with the video editing budget. You'll also get access to a ton of exclusive perks like early access to videos and this program design lecture playlist in the top right-hand corner. And if you want to learn how to do a one-armed pull-up, then check out the playlist on the top left corner.